Hi, my friend, and welcome to the Good Girl Syndrome Show. Today, I'm going to talk about how I used to always try to save people. So, I don't know if you watched the Wednesday episode with Camille, where Camille was talking about how she was entertaining toxic relationships, or at least not so constructive relationships. She had two different types of scenarios. One was someone, or at least some people, who were not kind with her. They were disrespecting her. They were being neglectful to her. When in the beginning, the relationship felt quite intense and like they really adored her. And then all of a sudden, like poof, everything went away. And now they're quite disrespectful with her. And the other type of situation is she continued friendships with people that she did not respect and did not like, but out of a sort of a scarcity mindset of thinking, what if there's no one else? So if you're interested in that conversation, I strongly recommend that you pause this video, you go check the second link in the description box. You will see the episode from Wednesday. So go watch that episode. I think that will be really, really useful for you. If you are yourself in a toxic relationship, specifically if it's a taboo one that you don't talk about to anyone else, I think that would be very, very useful for you. Today, however, I'm going to talk about my relationships, my unfulfilling relationships from the past, and not so healthy relationships, but not from the perspective of, I was being disrespected or disrespectful, more from the idea of this triangle, of like when you try to save someone, someone is a victim, someone is the savior, and someone is, I don't know what the word is in English, but probably the oppressor or the attacker or something like that. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So if you're interested in that and seeing how I went from being someone who was always saving everyone, feeling very unfulfilled in my relationships, to how I now have a few, not too many, but a few very, very close friends and a fiance with whom I have beautiful, healthy relationships. Not perfect relationships, but beautiful, beautiful relationships that fill my heart, fill my soul, and make me feel really, really good. So if you're interested in that, keep on watching. Just in case you do not know me, because you never know who comes to this channel. If this is your first time here, hi, welcome. I'm very happy to meet you. My name is Julie. Probably you've seen that. My name is Julie Vander, Meulen. I'm half Belgian, half Greek. I used to be a researcher in political science, and I completely switched careers. There were a few steps in the meantime, but I'm keeping it short for you now. And I became what I call an empowerment coach for high-achieving women. This is what I do now, coach women one-on-one. By the way, if anyone is interested, I am now recruiting my clients for the next season, for the next year, between now and the 30th of June, if you're interested. So if you're interested in that, go check in the description box. This is happening right now. And on top of that, and actually related to that, I have developed a concept. There was a concept that existed called Good Girl Syndrome. A psychologist had come up with it in an interview that he talked about. And I have developed actually a whole theory and a whole framework and tools that I apply in my coaching for myself, first of all, but also in my coaching. I have applied that to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of women through my coaching, one-on-one coaching, but also through my newsletter that has thousands of women on it. If you're interested in that, it's completely free. It's in the description box as well. And so this is what I'm doing now in the Good Girl Syndrome show as well. I was looking for practical ways to answer your questions, to actually, for you to be able to take the good girl, to understand your own good girl patterns, if this is something that you identify with, and to be able to, one, have the awareness that they're there, and two, to understand them better, and three, to have concrete examples through my own life in the Sunday episodes, which is one of what I'm doing today. So where I'm talking about how I changed a pattern in my own life, and through the Wednesday episodes where I have someone in my audience ask me a question and explain a specific context and situation, and I do a coaching mentoring session for them, right? And so that gives you hopefully ways for you to identify with different stories. Some weeks probably some things will not speak to you. Some other weeks I imagine that they will. And so the idea is that then you would be able to do your own personal development specifically for good girls every single week, if you're interested in that. So that was the goal of all this. If you have been enjoying this show, right? If you've been here before, if you've been enjoying the show, if you like what I'm doing, if you like what I stand for, if you like the impact that I'm having on your life, but also on every single other woman who could be suffering from good girl patterns, and you want to help me on my mission, or just support me and show me some love, that counts too. Please do whatever right step, for you, whatever you feel is right for you. It can be putting a like on this video. It can be commenting below so that you boost the engagement and more people see it. It can be subscribing if you haven't already. Send this to someone else if you think it would be useful, or just send me some love through the camera. That works too. Whatever you send my way, I am very, very, very grateful. Thank you for watching, my friend. Let's dive in. So for today, I always ask myself a few questions, so I wrote a few questions down. So the people I used to try to save, who did I used to be drawn to in my life? I used to be drawn to as friends, right? But perhaps also in my romantic relationships to a certain extent. Very often I was drawn to people. It was different types of people, but let's say that the dynamic. I was attracted more, not so much to a certain type of people. I was attracted to a specific type of dynamic where this person, according to me, right? It doesn't mean it has to be true. But how I was perceiving this person is I was seeing them as a victim of something. So they had something difficult in their life or in their past, and they were struggling with that, right? And I had a lot of compassion for that. Probably because I was projecting myself into the stories as well, because I also had similar patterns. And I wanted to help them. And I wanted them to see how lovable they are. And I wanted them to feel like they have this loyal friend who is always there for them and who thinks they're absolutely amazing and all of that. And I think the intention, let's put it this way, the conscious intention for me, I think, was really to help other people. Was really because I had compassion, I felt sorry for them, but I also really could see the beauty in this person. I was really attracted to the fact that someone, like I was really compelled by a story of people, and it's still in me today, by the way, that I tend to be the person who sees not just the beauty, but like the potential in someone. Now it's more about potential for me than it is about beauty, right? Because it changes things. When I was attracted to finding the beauty in someone, that meant that I was going towards people who were particularly dark. People who had very little to show the world in terms of beauty. I'm not talking about physical beauty. I'm talking about they were being at their worst. And they were behaving at their worst. And I was choosing to see the little bit of light that was in this dark person. And I was thinking that if I hold on to this piece of light and I pull on it, right? I love metaphors. If I pull on it, then it's going to expand. And this person will finally see themselves for this beautiful light that they truly are, and they will expand. And I think the intention was noble. However, it put me in situations where then I was constantly surrounded by people who were extremely negative, who had all sorts of behaviors that, if we don't want to call them toxic, were very destructive for themselves and for others, including me, right? And I was enabling them. If you've heard of the idea of enabling, I was someone who was making it okay, because I was trying to enhance so much their light that I was pretending, even though I could see it, I was pretending like they had no darkness, because I wanted them to see how beautiful they were, and I was trying to like boost their ego, basically, so that like from that place of what I thought feeling love for themselves and love from me, then they would blossom and become this, beautiful, beautiful flower. What usually happened with that is some of that would actually happen, but at a great cost for me, because it was taking a lot of my energy, and also because then I was their punching ball, right? So I was their friend, but also the person who would be accepting all the behaviors that they had that were destructive towards me, because I was making excuses for them. I was thinking, yeah, but they don't know any better. Like, I'm okay. I can handle it. Like, I'm okay. I'm okay. No, like, I can do this for myself. I don't need that. And what I never questioned that before, that, what does that mean about me? That I'm not saying this in a self-blame type of way, but what does it mean about me that, like, the people that I'm drawn to are the darkest people, and I'm trying to find the little bit of light that there's inside of them, right? And it made me realize that, one, I was going towards what I knew, right? That was part of therapy and me understanding my background and, things that had happened to me earlier, was to realize, oh, I'm actually repeating a pattern here. I'm really repeating a pattern, and it's not the most healthy pattern, because the first iterations of that when I was little were horrible, right? And so now I'm reiterating the same thing over and over and over again, and it's hurting me very, very badly in the process, right? And then later on, what I also understood from that was that, there's this idea, at least that's how we learn it in the Tony Robbins world. I'm a volunteer there. I'm what is called the senior leader. And so there, when we coach people and mentor people, we basically, we look at people in a specific lens in the Tony Robbins world, right? And so with people who are being negative like that, negative, or who are being destructive, the others but ourselves, it's like we're always thinking in terms of, there's a cost to the thing you're doing, very clearly, otherwise you wouldn't be looking for change, but there's also a benefit, right? And so the idea for me, when I heard that in the beginning, I was really, really mad at that. I was thinking, what are you saying? Like, there is no benefit, like, I'm not doing this for my own benefit. I'm doing this out of selflessness, and just my attitude nowadays would make me feel there's a lot of ego behind that. Like, this reaction, right? It shows me a lot of ego, but I didn't know that before. And so me understanding, oh, there is a benefit to this. There is a benefit to this whole situation. One is a sense of comfort. There's pain, right? But there's also comfort because it's what I know. So I'm repeating a pattern that I know. But second of all, I feel a big sense of contribution in my life, because I am giving this one person who's behaving badly and the rest of the world doesn't want them, I am saving them. Like, I'm helping them. I'm saving them from themselves. I'm like, and so to this person, I feel like I'm the most important person in the world. I feel so important. I feel like I'm a good person. I feel like I'm changing something really important. You know what I mean? And so that gave me a sense of purpose, right? Saving people gave me a sense of purpose. And it also gave me a sense of self-worth in a way, because it made me feel like, I was a good person, and I was doing something that matters, and I was also doing something unique, something that no one else wanted to do. It's so hard that no one else wants to do it, but I'm doing it, right? And so it's a bit of a twisted, way of seeing things, but that is how I used to feel about these things. And so to me, understanding these different aspects of, like, oh, that's why I do it, linked to, if you've seen my videos before, perhaps or if you're doing coaching sessions with me, then you've for sure heard me say that. But I talk about another concept from the Tony Robbins world, which is the 6 human needs, right? The 6 human needs are, you can look that up, by the way. It's very, very interesting theory. So number 1 would be, let's go with certainty. So the need to be safe, the need to be in control, these types of things. Number 2 would be the opposite, uncertainty, right? And so that's a need for adrenaline, a need for change, a need for freedom, these types of things. Number 3 would be love and connection. That's one need, love and or connection. And so that's the need to be loved, but also to love other people, right? To be deeply, deeply connected to other people, but also to yourself and or to something bigger than you. It can be, if you have spiritual, religious beliefs, it can be God, or it can be the universe, or it can be whatever you believe in. And or if you don't, or if you have other things, it can be, for example, a connection to nature, connection to society, a connection to humanity, connection to something that is bigger than you, to your community, these types of things. The fourth thing would be a need for contribution. And so your need for contribution would be not in order to feel loved or to give love. It's because you want a higher purpose, what I was talking about before. You want a higher purpose. You want your life to have a meaning. You want to contribute something to the world, right? That type of vibe. And then there's two more. There's a need for significance. So that's the need to feel important, to feel like you matter, right? And the last one is the sixth need is a need for growth. And so that's the desire to learn, to evolve, right? To change, to become something better, these types of things. And so to me, understanding that, like understanding the idea that there's a benefit to any action that I do, however destructive, combined with the understanding of the six human needs, I could see that the two dominant needs in my life were a need for contribution, because I deeply, deeply needed a sense of purpose in my life, and a need for significance, and the need to matter, that I matter. That, you know, and I conflated those two. That like I made it so that if I was contributing to something that was unique and that no one else was doing, it made me feel as a person like I mattered, you know, like I was special and I was good and I was, you know, doing something unique. And at the same time, I was contributing to the world. I was doing something really good for other people. And so in my mind, I had conflated the two. And I had created a magical recipe that was not so magical, where therefore all my sense of worth was related to me being special and doing things that were very unique and extraordinary. And my vehicle for that, what I chose was I was helping people who other people thought were beyond saving, right? That was my mission, right? And so for me to be able to change and to not go towards people that I was always trying to save, it took a lot. And it also took the realization that I really hated, which was that me always saving people and seeking significance and so on and so forth, that a lot of it was based on ego, that I was feeling special, but also that in a relationship, and that's where we see a link with what Camille was mentioning on Wednesday, is that I was in what we call a superior position. That means that this person was the person I was saving. They're there and I'm there. I'm guiding them. I'm giving them advice. I'm right. And so, and I was important in their life. They needed me and I needed to be needed, right? And when I realized that, oh, you know, I'm doing this because I actually really deeply need and want to be needed. And perhaps this person actually doesn't need me. I also, in the meantime, as I was learning about coaching and personal development, I also realized that saving people doesn't save them, right? Sometimes if there's a very dark situation, of course you want to help people in the moment. But like being an enabler, right? Being someone who enables someone else's destructive behaviors and makes it okay does not help them. And it does not help the rest of the world either. Because this person who is having those destructive behaviors, and perhaps this person is you, and that was for certain in some ways me as well. When you don't, as long as you don't confront this negative behavior, especially if someone reinforces it and says, oh no, it's good, you know, like you're good the way that you are with this specific behavior, you will continue it. You will continue it and you will continue to harm other people consciously or unconsciously with that toxic behavior, right? And so when I realized that, like this whole combination of all the things that I told you, I was like, my goodness, not only am I not helping people, but I'm actually creating monsters, you know, like I'm doing a whole recipe to create and entertain monsters. And I'm not saying that the people that I met in my life are all monsters, right? I'm just thinking in general, if I wanted to find a recipe for how to create a monster, right? That's what I would do. I would go to someone who already has something destructive and I would pet them. I would give them positive reinforcement anytime that they did something really wrong that was harmful to someone else, so that they would continuously repeat that behavior. I would enable it and I would reinforce it, right? And so when I realized that, I felt really bad. I felt really, really bad. And also, again, right, my old way of seeing things was, what's wrong with me that this is how I behave? And why I behave that way, I'm not going to go into much detail because I like to keep my past and my life private. But what happened through what I could see through therapy and through a lot of the coaching that I did and a lot of seminars is I was basically repeating old patterns, right? I was repeating the pattern of going towards people who had a lot of darkness inside of them, because that's what I knew, right? That's what I had grown into for some of my life, and so I was accustomed to, and I really, really wanted to save those people, right? Because when I grew up, when I was little, those people were very important to me. They mattered a lot to me, so I wanted to help them and to save them. Yeah, I just repeated this pattern of going towards these people, and then I had my own survival mechanisms as a child that then I developed into a whole way of being. And so I was attracted to people who were very, very dark and had a lot of destructive behaviors. And then my only way that I knew how to work with it was also how I had seen other people in my life behave with the people who were dark, right? And everyone was trying to accommodate them. Everyone was trying to, right? Both for their own safety, but also because they were trying to protect them, a bit of a tribal type of energy, right? And so that was what I was reproducing. And so when I realized that, I had a very hard time understanding, not understanding, but this realization meant that everything that I knew about relationships was wrong. I didn't know how, I was attracted to the wrong people. I was behaving, I was misinterpreting the right people or good people, right? I did not, yeah. And then inside relationships, I was doing everything the opposite, I was reinforcing bad behaviors and I was dismissing good behavior, right? So it really felt like in my mind, everything was upside down. And so I felt really lost for a while of how am I ever going to, how do I interact with people now? How do I know who is who? Who's a good person, who is not? How do I know how to behave with people? What about me? What about if I have some of those destructive behaviors? Because if I condone them, if I'm okay with them in other people, what does that mean about me, right? Again, not self-blame, but is it possible that if I grew up in specific ways and I internalized things as being okay, is it possible that I would be doing some of those behaviors as well? And it was, right? And so it was a very, very hard journey for me to understand all of that. But the key moment was really understanding those different pieces and putting them together and getting that I was actually not to blame for the person's behavior, but I was actually participating in the dynamic, right? In a dynamic that was actively hurting me. And it took me a long time, and it took me many, many trials and error of trying to meet new people as friends in romantic relationships. It took me a lot of trial and error of going the next step and the next step, right? And sometimes when you're growing this way, one, it's really chaotic and you feel really lost because you don't know what you're doing. I think that's the reality of a lot of growth, because growth sounds phenomenal. If I tell you the recipe sounds easy, when you have to do it, there's so many negative emotions that you feel inside and so much of a feeling of feeling lost. It's why I find that coaching is very, very helpful for any type of thing, going to seminars, reading books, and so on and so forth, because then you have a sort of guideline, repeated guideline, and people allies, whether you're actively talking to them like your best friend or in a coaching session, or whether you're doing that because you're reading books, which it was what I was doing when I first started. I couldn't afford coaching back in the very beginning when I started my journey. It helps so much because then in the moment, like other people have experienced this before, right? And they walk you through it just like I'm doing this right now. And so you can resonate with that and you can be, okay, today I can take this one thing, right? Out of everything that I've told you now, perhaps there's one of these ideas where you're like, oh, yeah, I really am, someone who saves people, or, oh, yeah, I am enabling people, or, yes, I am going towards darker type of energy people. It doesn't matter what it is, but like every single little interaction that you have with a book, with the content, something that makes you grow and evolve and understand yourself better and your patterns better, is like making you go upward. And that makes it easier, because what you will feel when you're growing, you're doing something you've never done, especially if like no one around you is doing this, or like they don't understand, that there's something wrong with the dynamics that they entertain in, is that you will feel lost all the time, right? And that's a hard place to be. And so, yeah, for me, that changed everything. Understanding that I was participating in the dynamic, and then actively trying to change that. And so I think one of the core things that I applied from the beginning was, if someone is doing something that I know is wrong, at least it's wrong for me, even if I don't have the courage to say that to them, the first thing that I can do is I can acknowledge it. I can acknowledge it inside myself and be like, this is not okay, and not say, oh no, you're okay, don't worry about it, or laugh it off when they say something. You can be silent. You can just be with yourself and be like, actually, this is not okay, inside yourself or outside if you have the courage to say it. But oftentimes we don't. So to me, that was a big thing. And the second thing was, I will not rescue this person. That was hard in the beginning. And then it's like from one day to the other, there was a switch inside of me, and I never wanted to do that again. When I understood, I think it was a book from Glennon Doyle. Don't know if you've heard of her. She has a few really good books. I think she had one called Untamed that I read a long time ago, where I think in it she mentioned that she was talking about kids, but I think it applies to everyone. She was saying that one day she realized that she says something like, don't deprive your children of their own mistakes. And to me, when I heard that in the context that she was explaining it, I was like, oh, wow. So every time that I'm trying to rescue someone and I'm trying to save them and so on and so forth, I'm depriving this person of their own mistakes and of the lessons that they could learn from that. And instead of, I'm like micromanaging something, I'm trying to like fix it, right? Before they could learn the lesson. And afterwards, what I also realized was unconsciously, like indirectly, what I'm doing also is it means I am not trusting them to be able to solve their own problems, right? If I'm always there to rescue them, it means I am capable. I believe I'm capable of doing that, and I believe they're not, right? Which part of it was the case, right? I did not think that they were capable. So that said something about me and my need to be significant, and you know what I mean? So unconsciously, I wasn't doing that on purpose, but I was keeping people at a lower level than they were capable of because I wanted to rescue them. My pattern was to rescue them. And so I would put myself in a superior position. I would put them in an inferior position in my mind. All of that unconsciously, of course, right? And so I was like, okay, this is working. This is a good relationship. Thank God I'm here, right? I'm important. And so that was a pivotal moment for me to understand, because then I was like, okay, so I'm actually not helping them. Like, me rescuing someone is not helping them. And so I started stopping helping people, actually. So people would tell me something and I would just be like, okay. And they'd be like, ah, da, da. And then I was like, but you can do it. Like, and that's how I started speaking. I was like, but like, you're assuming that you can't do it, but you can do it. Like, why can't you do it? And that created some resistance in some people, but for the most part, it's where my label that I use of empowerment coach comes from that. Because then I realized, but if I can choose to contribute and to be important and to help people from a different position. I can choose to be the person who never forgets a human's capabilities, right? Capacities to change their own lives. Not that me, I'm so special because I'm changing their lives, but to reconnect people and to give them this faith and this belief that sometimes we lack ourselves, but that I can be the person who's in front of you when you're stumbling and you're having a hard time. And like, I'm so lost, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you know what to do. Like, it's inside of you. You're capable of doing this thing, right? And I really believe it because I believe that every single human being is capable of doing incredible things, right? And so I'm thinking, if you haven't done it before, just because you didn't believe you could, what if you could, right? And that's how my whole journey started. And so I created this beautiful vacation for myself, right? I was already a coach by then. I had already done trainings and so on and so forth. But that was how I like realized this is what I want to do with my life. I don't want to be someone who rescues people and who is depleted in the process of doing that and who unconsciously and directly deprives them of their own agency. I want to be someone who empowers people to believe in themselves and to believe that they can be the hero of their own lives, right? That's what I want. It doesn't matter what that looks like. I don't need, you to have a specific type of life or a specific type of journey. But I would love for you, when you are in an environment with me, for you to feel like you are special and like you can do incredible things. Not that me, I'm going to save your life, right? And it's the same when you come in a coaching session with me. If you've ever done any type of coaching journey with me, my goal is not to keep you for 5 years. If you want to stay for 5 years because this is beneficial to you, you're very welcome. I'm happy to have you. But I never want anyone in my coaching sessions who does not want to be there. And my goal every single coaching session, even though all I do is programs, so normally you would come and you would stay for 12 sessions. Usually you take one a month, right? Because my prices are a little higher. And so my goal from the very beginning, from the first free meet and greet that we have, is I say, so you're here, you come for 12 sessions, we sign a contract, but inside the contract, it says, it's written that if at any point, of course, if you've paid the session that you've received, right? But if at any point you don't want to come anymore, you don't have to come. I don't want prisoners in my, you know what I mean? I don't want people to come. Like, what I want you to do is to come because you really want that change and you think, you genuinely believe that you coming to the session is really going to help you and it's going to help you go a step further, right? That's what I want. You are going to feel more empowered. And so that means that every single coaching session that I give it all my heart. And I'm thinking, I don't ever assume that this person is going to come back next time. Of course, I believe that they will because I give my all and that there's no reason why they wouldn't. But I give every single coaching session as like, I want you to be as autonomous as you can. Like, every tip, every little thing that I have inside of me that I think would be useful for you, I will give to you, because if you never come back, that way you can deal with that without needing to come to me or to anyone else. That's what I want, because to me, that's what empowerment is. Empowerment is, at least when I want to empower you, I want you to feel like you have full agency over your life. You have choices over every single thing in your life. Except, of course, if you're sick, but even for those things, you have a choice of like how you want to behave, how you want to react to different things. And so that transformed my vocation, what I'm doing now, and my approach to things, but it's also changed, therefore, how I am with other people and who I attract, right? And also who I keep as my closest friends. None of my closest friends, how can I say that, need me. They're all self-sufficient individuals who are doing really well in their lives. Doesn't mean that sometimes they don't need a little bit of help or, but vice versa. It's not me, I'm there and there. No, we're like this, right? Each with our own ways of being, each with, different things. But it comes from a sensation that I fully believe in their agency and they fully believe in my agency. And I don't like when people tell me what to do or when they think that I can't do something and like all this type. I'm allergic to that, right? And the people that I am around, they tend to be like that too. But together, right? Together, we have so much trust with one another and so much respect that we are okay being vulnerable with one another. And if one of us needs help, it's not a big deal, right? Because, we have this beautiful type of relationship together. So, yeah, I think that's it. I see here I have one question that I haven't replied to because I riffed, right, on whatever came to me, which is, what did I have to let go of to be able to have the friends that I have now and the life that I have now? I think the biggest thing, and perhaps it's controversial, in the pop culture we have right now around things of mental health and so on is I had to let go of the idea that people are victims. And so by that, I don't mean that there's not people who are victims of crimes, of people who are disrespectful. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about this idea of a victim mindset that, like, because you've suffered, you had pain at some point, that makes you a victim for the rest of your life. I needed to let go of that because I really used to believe that. I used to live my life, my own life like that. I was really consumed by my past, by things that happened 20 years before, right? And I was still like holding on to that and having stories about that and making it mean something about me, about life, about other people. But also, I was attracted to people who were doing the same, right? That the darkness that I had inside of me was hidden, right? Inside for me, as many of you good girls as well. But it was there, right? And I was very attracted to other people who had a similar level of darkness, right? And the level of darkness is partly related to the things that they experience, but it's also partly related to how they dealt with it, what they did with it, right? How they interpreted the situation and what it meant about them, about other people, about life, and so on and so forth. And so while there was a pain, heavy pain, perhaps in the past at some point or in the present, it was for me to deconstruct the fact that you can feel an immense amount of pain at some point and you can heal from it, right? Doesn't mean that sometimes it won't come back and so on and so forth. It's part of our inner landscape, right? But there is nothing that says that you need to continue suffering day in, day out because of that thing that happened to you 20 years ago. You are allowed and you have a choice to let it go, whatever it is, however hard it is, right? And so I think that's what I really needed to let go. Like the biggest thing for me was that letting go of this victim mindset. Don't really like this expression, but I think you see that's how it's called in general. But yeah, it was releasing the idea that you need to perpetuate your suffering beyond a specific amount of time of when something happened, right? That you just like wallowing and like feeling really bad about yourself and for yourself for things that happened before for a really long period of time became something that I did not allow anymore in myself and I did not allow in the people in front of me. Like I was realizing that was a pattern. Whereas before I was just like, yeah, but they suffered so much, right? And I suffered and I understand it because I suffered so much and it's so hard inside of me. And then I was like, but I actually have a choice. Like if I look at my life, this idea of like consciousness, of mindfulness, if I am present with what is right now, like right the second in my life, none of this actually exists. This is in my mind. Like what exists right now is I'm in my room, I am filming, there's this camera, I have lovely people that I'm talking to. I'm talking about things that I like my energy, my inner sensation, my mental and emotional landscape can be lifted up if I just choose to focus on what's here instead of going to the past or being anxious about the future. So I think that was the biggest thing for me. Perhaps that can be useful for you too, for you as a person, but also for who you surround yourself with, and see if this is true for you. I'm not inside. I don't know what's going on inside of you, right? But in my own life, I've come to realize that oftentimes the behaviors that I don't like in other people, that I tolerate, like if I tolerate a specific behavior in someone else, it's usually because I have some version of that inside of me. And so I tolerate it in them because I understand them. I have a similar type of suffering, but I don't like it in someone else. Like I want to save them, but also like it creates this type of dynamic. And so anytime that I see that, all of my friends behave in this specific way, have this specific pattern, I'm like, where do I have that too? And it's never happened to me once that when I ask myself that question for something, that I didn't find something. Like it's very telling. What you tolerate in others, oftentimes there's a version of it. Doesn't mean that it's exactly the same, right? But there's a version of it inside of you. So if we go, because I know that some people will tell me, oh, but if I tolerate disrespect of someone else, or like someone is mistreating me, like doesn't mean that I'm doing the same to them. No, No, not necessarily. But what it means is you are allowing you to disrespect you and to mistreat you by being in this situation, right? And perhaps in other ways as well, right? Perhaps with your eating patterns or eating disorders or other things that can be happening in your life, right? So that's my final word around all of that. I know it's a bit darker, but I think it can be useful. And what I always say is, if whatever I create is useful to one person and it changes one person's life, then my mission is complete. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it was really useful for you, and or that you had some insightful things inside of it. Like I always say, if you're interested in going deeper into this specific, what we're talking about now, go subscribe to the newsletter if you haven't already. The one that is coming out today, because it's Sunday for you. I'm recording this on a different day, but for you it's Sunday, so that means that today the newsletter is coming out, and the free newsletter that you can subscribe to in the description box. And I will be creating exercises around how to clarify, who is actually healthy for you as a person in your friendships and relationships, and how to move forward. So if you're interested in that, go subscribe. And in general, every single week, that's what I do with the newsletter. So I take the topic of the week and I make it even more concrete for you so that you can apply it through exercises and questions into your own life. So if you're interested in that, go check the description box. My friend, thank you so much for watching. It's always a joy and a pleasure for me to be doing this with you. I am so excited for next week. I don't know yet what I'm going to be talking about, but I know I'm excited to be doing this again. And as always, if this was useful for you, and if you want to show me some love, I would love any type of appreciation from you. It can be just from the screen. Send me a little bit of a good intention from the screen. Put a like below the video. Comment if something resonated with you. Forward this to someone else if you think it could really help them. Thanks for everything. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you on Wednesday.